All right, YouTube, what's happening? Come back out with another knife video. Now, this angle's a little different too than last time. After some feedback in my last video, I wanted to kind of change the format up a little bit on my videos. I'm going to do a hybrid. So I'm going to have some front-facing, things with the knives and such. Give you a close look like that. Talk about them a little bit, and then I'm going to actually flip the camera, do a little editing, and go down to the tabletop for the full review. Because a lot of people said they like both formats, like seeing the face to the name, so to speak, but they also think they can see better when it's down on the tabletop, size comparisons, things like that. So we're going to start doing a little bit of hybrid. The knife we're going to talk about today is the Field Duty EDC from Liong Mah. This is, for some reason, a very under the radar knife, and I don't understand why. It's absolutely fantastic. I'm a big Liong Mah fan, and have met him in person before at the USN show, I believe. I think it was the USN show. And just a really nice guy, and just really dig his designs, always have. And he does small production runs with Riot, his manufacturer, his OEM, and just his designs. He still may have some models with CRKT as well, but I know most of the stuff he does kind of on his own now. So through Riot. So this is a smaller version of the Field Duty, the larger knife called the Field Duty. This is the smaller version. And this knife will probably, to a lot of guys, remind you of another style of knife that we're going to talk about in this video, and that's the Strider SNG. It's like a PT and an SNG combined, and it's between the size of a PT and SNG. I always felt the PT was a little small. The SNG I really like, and it's one of my most carried knives, but it's also a little large sometimes. So this is right in the middle, and it uses the same monoblock G10 design, also a frame lock, also thumb hole opening. So very, very similar things, forward choil, a lot of things going on, blade shape. We'll bring it down to the tabletop here and talk more about specs and talk more about how it compares to that. But I just want to give my first impressions. When I first got this in hand, I absolutely just loved it. I was like, man, this thing is so comfy in the hand. It feels so good, and every grip has just absolutely fantastic ergonomics. And there was like just that immediate, those times where you have a knife in your hand, and you're like, oh yeah, this is one that's going to stay around a long time. This is one I'm going to use and carry on a daily basis. I'm going to rotate this in my carry rotation. That I immediately knew that when I got this knife, and that's not very common that you get that with knives. So yeah, let's go ahead and flip it down to the tabletop and talk more about the knife, do some size comparisons, talk about some features, specs, those kind of things, and we'll wrap it up. All right, guys, so as promised, back to the tabletop. Let's take a look at the Field Duty EDC. First, I want to talk about the packaging it came in. It came in this nice Liong Mah Designs knife case, nicely padded, good sized, Velcro in there. Came with a cleaning cloth and Liong Mah patch and his card. So nice packaging on this guy. Now let's go ahead and talk about the price on these guys. List $305 on his website for the G10 version. There's also a carbon fiber version that is a little bit more expensive. I think it's $350. Oh, $309. My bad. $309 is the cost on these. And the Field Duty EDC in carbon fiber is $369, so $60 uptick in price. Also available in black G10. So let's go over some basic specs here, and then we'll get into some size comparisons and talk about some other things. Your overall length is 7.5 inches. Your blade length is 3.5. Handle length is 4. You have a blade length is 3.5 inches. That's obviously not cutting edge because of this choil. Your blade thickness is 0.145. It is LMAX steel with a spear point blade shape. Obviously it has a titanium frame lock and a monoblock G10 construction. Even says on his website, inspired by Strider knives. So, however, talking about Strider, we might as well bring it out because I mentioned this earlier. This is a very similar knife in design to the SNG. Obviously not the same. Handle shape is, first of all, it's smaller. Handle shape is different. Blade shape is slightly different. But it does share a lot of similarities, and that's actually what drew me to this knife. I decided I'm definitely a big fan of choils on knives. I have a lot of knives that have choils. It's not a deal breaker if it doesn't have a choil, but I'm not opposed to them like some people might be. Let me move that out of the way. So there's the SNG. And let's look at a smaller knife. This is a Chris Reeve Sebenza 31. Small, so it's a little bit bigger than that guy. Can't get that clip to sit flat. And then the bug out actually, I think, was the exact same size, or very, very close to the same size. Yeah, they're nearly identical in size. Maybe the bug out might be a titch longer, but very, very similar size. So that's kind of where it falls. Like I said, if you ever had a Strider PT and then versus the SNG, you can see this would fall right in the middle of those two, which is what drew me to this. As you can see, it shares the same monoblock construction. This is aluminum, but they do have these in G10, obviously. And this is what Strider does on all of their knives. I will tell you, I took this knife apart because the action out of the box was a little gritty. It just had some grease and such on it, and I took it apart, and man, it's built like a tank. First of all, it was very, very well put together, and this monoblock is not coming off with just those screws. So there's 2 screws there, 2 screws here, plus your pocket clip screw. I literally had to pry it open a little bit with a small flathead just to get this off. It's so snug and so well. The tolerances are very tight on this knife, which is a good thing. Always a good thing. So let's talk about the weight. I think I mentioned the weight actually. No, I didn't. Let's weigh this sucker. For some reason, he doesn't have it listed on his website. Comes in at 3.6 ounces, so a really good weight and size for EDC. Under that 4-ounce mark, we always like to see that. Like I said, it is a thumb or finger flicker for sure. It has a really good action on it. It is on bearings on this guy, which a lot of guys are going to want washers like the Striders and such. I'm not sure what that was, but I don't mind them. They work well. This action is definitely not drop shut, but it has a great detent. It flies open, just absolutely flies open. You got some nice jimping here on the thumb ramp. It's pretty long, and it's not aggressive really. It's pretty light, but it works really well. And like I mentioned, the ergonomics on this guy are absolutely incredible. It's like one of the most comfortable knives that I've ever put in my hand. The SNG works really well with my hand. I would say this is even more comfortable than the SNG. Very, very neutral handle shape, kind of like the Sebenza and the bug out. Just to name a couple that I've already brought out that also have neutral handle designs. So very similar in shape, and that handle design just works, guys. I wish more companies would do it. Here's another one, the Hinder Fire Tack that I just got in. Very neutral handle design as well, a little bit bigger knife. Just all these ergonomics on all these knives are fantastic, and it's because of that. It's going to fit any kind of hand shape. So definitely dig that part of it as well. Another great thing about this guy is it's very thin behind the edge. So I love a nice thin grind on the blade, and this one is coming in at 13 thousandths, no, just shy of 12 and a half thousandths behind the edge. Let's make sure we get a couple measurements there. We're not going deep enough on the grind there. This one's always hard to do on camera. More like 14.5. More like 14.5 is more accurate. So 14 thousandths behind the edge. For a production knife, that's really good. So it's a thin, slicey blade. This forward choil does work. A lot of people are going to complain that takes away a lot of cutting edge, which it does. It's definitely a sacrifice on this knife, having that big of a choil. The actual cutting edge itself is right around, if we had to guesstimate here, because we can't really line that up, just shy of 3 inches. So it does take off a decent amount of usable blade, but it's so comfortable when you want to choke up and do fine detail work, and then if you want to choke back, it's super comfortable. Like I said, there's no grip. When I do testing on my knives, I test multiple medias. I might do a separate video on this. I'm not going to probably do cutting and such on videos anymore unless you guys really want to see it. Just because it takes a little bit more, it's not that it takes more time. I always do these tests on these knives. It's just, sometimes I don't always film it. and it adds just a little more length to videos. So let me know your thoughts on it. But I always do cardboard cuts, I always do zip ties, and I always carve into wood, like do feather sticking and other types of carving, because I think that really tests the ergonomics of a knife. And this thing was so comfy. I mean, there was no hot spots in the hammer grip. The saber grip is great. If you need like a pinch grip, it's great. There's just really no way that you hold this knife that doesn't feel good in your hand. The pocket clip is very, very well designed. It's a milled titanium with that ceramic ball that Liong Mah does on his clips, and it works really well, retains really well. It's not super, super deep carry, but it's pretty deep. I mean, you're only gonna have a tiny bit hanging out of your pockets. So overall, a very, just, man, a underappreciated knife. I've seen no YouTube, okay, so Epic Snuggle Dummy, I did not mean to say that, Austin. Epic Snuggle Bunny did a video when these were prototypes, and then Liong Mah's done a couple videos. That's all I've seen. I have no idea why this knife has not been more popular with YouTubers. So I wanted to get a video out on it because it is absolutely a fantastic knife. Now, price point $305. When you think about that, that it's made by Riyadh, and then it's got Liong Mah's design, and he sells these individually on his website, they're going to be a little bit more expensive. Now, if they sold them at big retailers and such, you may have seen the price drop under $200 or under $300. I actually got this for $275 off eBay, and it was in new condition, so I thought it was a pretty good deal. And I think that's a better price point for it, but I still think it's worth the price that he's asking, absolutely. Because if you were to try to find an SNG, you're spending at least minimum $450, probably more. And that's if you can get one on one of their drops. If you get one on the secondary market, man, you're looking upwards of $600-700. So it's the most comparable knife I can compare it to is definitely the Strider SNG. It's a very Strider-esque design. It's just but it's so good. It's so good, so underrated. I absolutely love it. Easily will be in my EDC rotation. It's just fantastic design. I never did the handle thickness. Let me show you that. It's just shy of ½ inch if I remember right. Yep, just shy of ½ inch. So just we'll call it ½ inch. It's so well rounded on the finishing by Riyadh. It just feels so good in the hand. I mean, it's hard to explain without you actually experiencing how well it feels. But if you're looking for a good mid-size folder with good materials like L-Max steel is kind of making a comeback, nice stonewash blade, titanium frame lock, does have a lock bar insert, is on bearings, super good fit and finish as you'd expect from Riyadh knives. I don't know why it's not more popular. I've said that many times in this video. If you took away a theme, that's what it is. So anyway, guys, I'm definitely digging it. I give it an enthusiastic 2 thumbs up. I think everyone that likes this style of folder, like a Strider, really should try this out, because it's a good way to get into that style of design without having to point at the money for an actual Strider. So, and it's just a good size. Like I said, in between an SNG and a PT, it's kind of what I always wish the PT would be, So yeah, very big fan, guys. I think you should definitely check it out. Thanks for watching, and we will see you on the next video.